Hi everybody, this is Victoria Longo with this week's Friday at 5. My topic this week is assumptions, expectations, and communication. And as I mentioned in last week's video, this topic will apply to anybody and any interaction that you have, whether there is an established relationship there or not. Communication is something that we all have not been taught how to do, at least not how. We haven't been taught how to communicate properly, and we learn a lot of passive-aggressive, manipulative ways of communication. We project a lot of assumptions and expectations in our communication, but very few of us are actually able to communicate effectively to receive what it is that we want. That is, unless you've studied, or maybe you are one of the few that was born with this gift. For myself, it was something that I did have to seek out to learn more. So diving in, a lot of times we communicate and there's so many things that are not said, or we can't say what we're thinking, so we just, either want to pick a fight or bring up something else that's completely irrelevant without actually touching on the topic at hand. So, just a broad example of, something that can lead to a fight is, hey, honey, can you take out the trash, right? Very basic. Can you take out the trash? Now, the assumption on our part, or the expectation, is that it's done now. We're asking now, it's done now. However, where it lands with our partner, maybe they're actually doing something. And even if it's something that we don't care about and we think is stupid, like playing a video game, maybe to them it's actually important. And so they're like, I hear you, and, yes, I'll do it, right? But in their mind, the assumption and expectation is they'll do it when they're done. Now, where the fights happen is it's not done immediately. It's not done when we want, even though we never communicated that. So we harass them, or we think they're going to forget, and we need to micromanage them, and we're so worried about it. I mean, if that's the case, just take the fucking trash out yourself. Just do it. If you wanted it done right away, you could say, hey, honey, can you take out the trash right now? And then they can say yes or no. And if they can't, to me, it's something so stupid to get mad about. And a lot of times it is something that people get upset about because it's part of a larger problem. And it's something that's kind of, we've been either suppressing or repressing our feelings and not communicating. And it's like, that's the tip of the iceberg that causes us to explode, right? Because we're not saying what we really need to say and what we really want to say. And so, it's important to be really clear in our communication. And in the digital age, where there's a lot of things that are sent by text and email, where there's no tone, there's no inflection, we're reading it in the first person. So we're reading it, I think that's what it is, but we're reading it in our own voice. And so wherever we are, if I'm somebody who, I am somebody who has had issues with insecurities in the past, and being jealous and not feeling that I'm good enough, right? And feeling that there's something wrong with me. And this was formed when I was a kid, what I dealt with in high school. And so a lot of times if I would have received a communication, a text or something, it's under the veil of there's something wrong with me and I'm not good enough. So no matter what the person's saying, I'm translating it in that voice of finding, to find out how they're pointing out my faults, right? When they may not even be intentionally doing that. So I think it's important to remember that whatever we say is going to land with a person wherever they are. And people are triggered by different things because of their experiences, because of their life. And so different things have different meanings for people, and it's not our job to judge whether it's right or wrong. I see that a lot, and that also escalates into conflict, because then we have to be right and somebody else is wrong, and we have to dominate them by winning, and they're the loser, and nobody really wins. It actually deteriorates the relationship, and so it erodes the foundation if we're constantly at battle with each other, especially if it's over nothing. So I think it's really important, one, to communicate exactly what it is that you want, and not micromanage the answer, not judge somebody off what they say. I mean, if you are expecting, so an example is somebody, that a client of mine had asked her partner if they were cheating, and the partner said no. But the expectation was that the partner was in fact having an affair. So even though they said no, it wasn't good enough, right? We're judging it against our expectation and our assumption that this is happening. And it may or may not be true. Now, as a psychic, tapping into the situation, I actually didn't feel that there was anything actually going on and that the partner was right. But if we have the assumption and the expectation of whatever we've already decided, it's irrelevant what somebody says. So it's super important in our communication with anybody just to let that go. Let go of what we think of how things should be, how we think somebody should act, and just accept a person for who they are and where they are. Now, if somebody is not acting a way that we agree with, then why do we have them in our lives? Why are we constantly supporting them, enabling them? If it doesn't work, if it's hurting us, whether it's emotionally or, God forbid, physically, but, mentally, it's like, I can't stand this person. They never do this. They always let me down. Why do you have them in your life? Why not find people that actually support you and lift you up so that you don't have that stress? It's just a lot of times we're not taught that we can actually receive that one, or how to communicate so that we can have that in a relationship. And so being very clear on, if there is a conflict that arises, stating what it is that you really are feeling. And so, as an example, I recently had made plans to spend some time with my guy, and he changed the plan slightly to hang out with a couple of different people. Obviously, I was invited because we had pre-made plans, and I didn't want to go because I wanted to spend time with him. I didn't want to share him. We haven't had a lot of one-on-one time, and I was really looking forward to that, right? So I could have, in the past, criticized him for, you're always picking everybody else over me. You never spend time with me. You're doing this wrong. You're doing that wrong. And it just leads to our partner having to defend themselves against our point of view. But if we actually want to create what we're asking for, and the way I approach it now is like, hey, I was really looking forward to spending time with you. I didn't want to spend time with other people. And I'm feeling really bad because we don't have a lot of time together, and I'm really just missing you, right? And notice that there's no accusations of you. It's you and the relative, right? Like I am missing my guy. I want to spend time with him. And so there's no defense that's required because I'm actually asking for what it was I wanted and what it was that I needed and what it was that I didn't get in that moment. And so there wasn't even a fight. It was just like, okay, I understand where you're coming from. How about we do this instead, right? Or why don't we do this now and make it up this way? And so there's no drama with that, which I think is amazing because I can't stand drama. And I know a lot of people do, and a lot of people love it and they feed into it, but really, do you really love that stress? Now, we can get addicted to stress. We can get addicted to our adrenaline rush and to those feelings and not know what to do when it's gone, but is it healthy? Are we feeling our best? And for me, no, it was like, and I was in some drama, like physically fighting with women and, arguing and yelling and all of this stuff. So it was exhausting to maintain. It's a lot of energy to fight. It's a lot of energy to constantly defend myself and be prepared to defend myself and to find fault with where people are insulting me or my perception of where they're insulting me. So letting that go, life is so much more joyful and fun and productive, right? Like there was a disagreement and a missed expectation, right? I had an expectation and so did he. And it turned out that I had completely misinterpreted, what was being asked. And he acknowledged that he didn't actually clearly communicate what his plan was for the evening. So the fault lies in both our hands, and that's usually the case in a lot of situations. It's usually the case of, we're two people having a relationship. There's nobody that's ever entirely at fault. So if you're having an issue of like, oh, well, he's a deadbeat dad, right? He doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. Well, the way I look at it, which is not popular, is you're having an expectation that he should father a certain way. It's not looking the way that you want it to. And so you're trying to force him to be the father you think he should be for your child, right? And there are many ways that that is done. It's through manipulation and control and temper tantrums and withholding and arguments and insults and all of these things, when really, let a person be responsible for their choices. If somebody's a deadbeat dad, they're not stepping up, they don't want to be involved in their child's life, let them go. And then it's like, oh, but the child needs a father. Well, is it better for him to have a father around that's being forced to do it? Or is it better for him to be with people, the child to be with people that actually want to be with them and learn that, rather than learning by example of this is how we're supposed to act and this is how relationships are. And also, before you get into that situation, does this person even really want to be a dad? Or do you want family and you've decided that you're of this age and it needs to happen, and so you're taking it out on them when they don't meet that expectation, right? So I really look at relationships in a very, very different way, because there are two people involved, and there are two people with their own assumptions and expectations, and it's based off how they grew up, and it's based off their life experiences, and it's based off of their desires, of what they expect in a relationship. And so being very, very clear on that, at all times is super important in maintaining, a trauma-free relationship. And this is with anybody, right? Again, it goes back to even interacting with strangers. If there's something that we want, we might assume that because somebody's standing right in front of us, that they see us and they should move, and they're being rude because they're not getting out of our way. But can't we say, excuse me? Like, maybe they don't see us. Maybe they're wrapped up in their own thoughts. Maybe, who knows? Now, I am guilty of that, where, depending on, again, the mood that I'm in, I might take somebody's standing in my path, a complete stranger, as like, oh, this person just doesn't want to get out of my way. They're just, whatever they're doing. And when I approach it with that attitude, I get met with that attitude, right? Versus just, hey, excuse me. Because again, they might be on their phone. So many people are locked into their little screen and paying attention to something else than their surroundings. So, assuming somebody should move because they know we're there. People aren't mind readers. People aren't, going to pick up on the undercurrent of what we're really saying and what we really mean. And then we get mad when they don't. But, it's not a realistic expectation. And yet that's how we've been taught to communicate in our relationships, is to not say what we want, to not say what we mean, and to go about it in a really negative, drama-filled way of not creating anything except disharmony and disconnection, right? Because then there's hurt feelings and things are said that can't be taken back. So again, the point of this is just recognizing that every single person, doesn't matter who they are, where they are, has an assumption and expectation, from their life experiences and what they've gone through. And no two people, even two people who grow up in the same household, don't have the same experiences. They remember different things. They remember differently based off of their own beliefs and, their own opinions that they formed. So the bottom line to communicating is, do you even know what you really want, one, out of a situation, or are you just picking a fight because you're dissatisfied and frustrated, but you don't really know why? And without knowing why, you can't really get what you need to fix it, right? Whereas if you actually identify, like, I'm really not feeling a connection with my partner, I'm really feeling alone, I'm really getting nervous that they're, having an affair because they're not paying attention to me, right? But they might be just as worried about that because you're not paying attention to them either. Because a lot of times when we do that, we withdraw. And if you want more on that, I have a video all about, when we're feeling unloved and what tends to happen in those situations. So you can go ahead and go back and watch that. It's one of the first couple of videos that I had done. So I would say, actually I could probably tell you right now, it's episode 6. So you can go back and watch more on that. But it basically, ties into this, that if we aren't feeling something, chances are our partner isn't either. And if we are able to express specifically what it is we're feeling, we're more likely to actually be able to receive it. So I leave you with that this week. Just be very clear in your communication, and it's all about you. What do you want? What are you trying to achieve, right? The other partner, it's usually assumed that, especially the wife is always right, that's not true. Sorry, it's not. So, identifying what it is you want, and is your spouse or partner able to provide that for you? And if not, who else can? And this doesn't mean, go out and date somebody else. If you're thinking about that, then why are you in your relationship to begin with? But, if you're wanting to go out and go for a hike, right? And your partner is wanting to sit inside and it's a gorgeous day and they're like, no, I don't want to go. Instead of getting mad at them for ruining your plans, call somebody else or go by yourself, because it's you that wants that. Nobody else is really responsible for your happiness. We can try to make people responsible and then we'll end up disappointed. So be clear in what you want, identify what you want, and be able to communicate it so that you actually can receive it, regardless of where it comes from, which again is letting go of our assumption and expectation of what that needs to look like. And that is going to be a huge, huge step in actually creating connection and creating relationships that contribute to you and bring joy to your life instead of stressing you out all the time. So leave you with that. And next week I have, somebody had shared a GQ article with me on dating, so I'm going to share my thoughts on that. So go ahead and tune in next week. Be sure to like this video if you've enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel so that you get updates on when new videos come out. And if you'd like to work further on this, shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to help you navigate this. I'm able to really break down communication because I can see with my psychic abilities what's actually underneath the surface. So I can help you work through that. And you can reach me at victoria@victorialongo.net. And until then, have a great weekend.